Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to my presentation today. My name is Ashley P. Evans, and I am currently employed at the Central Texas VA here in Temple, Texas, in the HRO lead position. An HRO, for those who don't know what that acronym stands for, is High Reliability Organization. And today I would like to bring to you a presentation on the topic of utilizing safety stories to enhance the high reliability organization journey. I have no relevant financial or non-financial interest to disclose to you. Okay, let's dive right in. At the conclusion of this activity, participants will be able to, 1, incorporate a safety story toolkit within their respective facility. 2, identify how to thread HRO principles into shared safety stories. 3, demonstrate how to incorporate HRO principles into staff's daily work. And number 4, explain the importance of enhancing team experience through staff recognition. The 4 foundational practices of HRO were established to advance the HRO journey, and they are as follows. Safety huddles are daily meetings used to give frontline staff members and organizational leadership the opportunity to stay informed and aware of safety risk. Leader rounding is a deliberate practice in which healthcare leaders set aside dedicated and recurring time to talk with staff and physicians in their work settings. Leaders demonstrate transparency, and there's clear and open communication and commitment to the HRO journey to high reliability. Patient forums are regular large group meetings where executive leaders, patient safety staff, and frontline personnel have equal voice and opportunity to review errors, adverse events, and close calls or near misses, or as we like to call them here in Central Texas, great catches. And we also review stop the line actions initiated as a result of a concern. The visual management system is a display that contains performance information and aligns with system-wide strategic goals for a facility or work setting. The information contained in a VMS should include data that provides the work setting with a snapshot about their patient safety related performance. Later in the presentation, we will delve deeper into how each of these practices moves us closer toward the journey of high reliability. But for now, I want you to understand that the hidden intrinsic theme of all 4 foundational practices is storytelling. In high reliability organizations, safety stories are most commonly used to share learning and highlight successes to reinforce commitment to zero harm. They are brief stories told in plain language that highlight how safety practices can help improve care. You can tell a safety story at the beginning of every meeting or daily huddle. And the story can be VA or non-VA related in subject matter. These stories keep safety at the forefront of our minds each day. Safety stories can take many different forms. The 2 most common types are called a great catch and an adverse event story. I'll explain what each of those are later in the presentation. The stories are an effective, meaningful way to connect with people, to teach people, and to create change and draw attention to challenges and opportunities. Stories reinforce principles and values by connecting them to very relatable experience. There are 2 types of stories that we create and support in HRO. A good catch story, or what we like to refer to as a great catch, is a safety story that shares an event that could have been harmful to a patient but was prevented thanks to the corrective actions of an individual or team. An adverse event story is a safety story in which harm occurred. These stories are just as important to share as a great catch story because they help to destigmatize errors by framing them as events we can learn from in order to continuously improve. As you just learned, storytelling is a powerful communication tool that can be used to reinforce all kinds of messaging. In this case, the importance of high reliability in our expectations for a just culture and culture of safety. In high reliability organizations, safety stories are most used to share learning and highlight successes to reinforce a commitment to zero harm. Storytelling helps us to share common and personal experiences in a way that appeals to emotions and brings humanity into work through celebration or demonstrating vulnerability. It motivates and sparks action on behalf of the listener. It educates on lessons learned. It captures the attention of the audience, removes social, cultural, and hierarchical barriers. It compels and inspires change. And lastly, it helps important messages really stick in our mind. When applied to our HRO journey, these benefits of storytelling helps us to advance our culture transformation and accelerate our progress towards zero harm. Becoming an effective storyteller is simpler than you think. You can leverage powerful stories to accelerate your HRO journey in just 4 steps. First, always start with a message in mind, the key lesson you want your audience to learn. Second, you want to mine your story and borrow stories from others to build a diverse collection of stories aligned to the messages you identified in step 1. Third, you want to build your story to ensure that you get your message across in a short, simple, yet compelling way. And we will review a 3-part structure shortly to help you do just that. And finally, you want to practice. Practice helps you to build confidence in your storytelling abilities. And it ensures that you are prepared to deliver a story that your audience is sure to remember. Does anyone follow social media? I know I do. The reason why that's so important is because no matter what social media medium you follow, this idea of captivating others with a personal story is there. It's all around us. This slide shows that social media captivates literally billions of people around the globe. It also shows that storytelling has become the preferred platform for engagement to inform and connect throughout the world, because that's essentially what social media is, a medium to allow for story exchange. This is the same platform that we need to apply in our healthcare organizations, as it is an excellent platform to use to talk more openly about experiences as well as lessons learned that impact our high reliability journey. So where are stories told? As discussed previously, stories are literally told everywhere. You want to ensure that your story is concise and that is compelling, so it stays on the forefront of your listener's mind as they go throughout their day. Consider using these practice tips to ensure your story is short, concise, compelling, and gets your message across. Number 1, write it down to ensure that you don't leave out any important details. Number 2, read it out loud to ensure your message comes across in the way that you envisioned. Number 3, time it. asking for no more than 2 to 5 minutes of your listener's attention. Number 4, tell it to a friend or record it to gain comfort in vocalizing your story. And as a freebie, I'll give you this tidbit. Ask a friend for feedback to ensure that your story is relatable and compelling and that your message is clear. At each step, employ the high reliability principle, preoccupation with failure, by cross-checking that you have appropriately de-identified your story by removing any personal health information, also known as PHI. As we've discussed, you can find stories just about anywhere. They could be personal experiences, which we have found to be the most effective, but they could also be stories borrowed from others. They could come from other VA facilities or from another healthcare system. If you are looking specifically for stories with VA facilities, a good place to start would be to look for a great catch or a safety story poster that are posted to the HRO SharePoint. You might find them on the intranet or through media. And don't overlook those root cause analysis, ensuring to de-identify any information. So now we're going to dive into the Safety Story Toolkit. Once you've mined your stories, it's time to put them into a simple and short structure for mindful communication. Safety stories are brief, as I stated before, no more than 2 to 5 minutes. And they're plain language stories that help highlight how HRO practices can improve care. Make a habit of telling a safety story at the beginning of every meeting or daily huddle to ensure safety is on the forefront as the #1 priority at all times. The CAR structure, CAR, it stands for context, action, and result. It provides a simple 3-part structure for effective storytelling. When you are telling a safety story, remember to align it with one of the 3 HRO pillars, one of the 5 HRO principles, or one of the 7 HRO values to drive home the points. Now that we have our message in mind, we can circle back to the CAR structure for effective storytelling. We reviewed it briefly earlier, but now we're going to talk about how we might use this structure. Under context, you want to provide the audience with where and when the story happened. Who is the main character in the story? What does the main character want in this story? Who or what is getting in the way? Under action, tell the audience what happened. And lastly, under result, what's the message? What did you learn from this story? What connection does your story have to the HRO principles and values? I've said it before and I'll say it again. The last step is always to connect your story to HRO principles and or values, because it's really the most important step. It's what leaves your audience with an understanding of how they can take your lessons learned and apply them to their daily work in support of the HRO journey. Additionally, you should also create a comprehensive safety story repository to allow for the following: ease of access for committees and staff members to be supplied with a safety story to utilize in their meetings to support the culture of safety mindset that you want across the organization. It also creates a space for services to be recognized for safety story submission, which also enhances the team experience related to feeling valued. You can also create fun contests centered around safety stories, perhaps recognizing the unit or service that submits the highest number of safety stories. This is an awesome way to foster frontline engagement, cultivate HRO principles, accelerate language grounding, increase overall awareness, and transform culture to impact team experience. Now let's briefly discuss how to thread HRO principles into safety stories in daily work. Organizational guidance to define the 3 HRO pillars, 5 HRO principles, and 7 HRO values should be disseminated across the organization and stored in a central location in efforts to achieve applying the 4 foundational leadership HRO practices effectively, drive awareness for HRO integration and cultural transformation, and lastly, to enhance understanding of HRO concepts across the enterprise. Now we are going to do a deeper dive into the 4 foundational practices, which inches us closer to the journey of high reliability. And it really connects us to storytelling from executive levels to frontline teams. These 4 foundational practices help us by providing psychologically safe venues for staff members to voice their perspectives, and it actively contributes. They actively contribute. It enables bi-directional communication up and down organizational lines and services. It fosters a sense of community by connecting teams and leaders, celebrates successes, and visibly recognizes contributions. Lastly, it encourages transparency and visibility with issues acted upon, and it fosters trust and builds momentum for culture change. Here you see pictured action steps for change using the ADKAR building blocks. ADKAR is a change management model that the VA utilizes to drive awareness for HRO integration and cultural transformation. Through storytelling venues, our teams and your teams can build awareness, create desire, develop and expand knowledge, foster ability, and reinforce change. Our high reliability checkpoint is a monthly bulletin issued to the organization to increase awareness about what our facilities are doing across the nation to move the HRO journey forward. This checkpoint is packed with so much great information, including a highlight for the theme of the month. The theme of the month is based on one of the 5 HRO principles or one of the 7 HRO values, and it rotates month to month. The HRO principles really guide our HRO journey by teaching us how to practice high reliability in our daily work. By sharing stories that demonstrate how these principles either were used or could have been used to prevent harm, we inspire greater adoption of the principles in our daily practice. The 5 HRO principles to connect safety stories to are as follows. Sensitivity to operations, which means that we focus on frontline staff and care processes. We are mindful of people, processes, and systems that impact patient care. Number 2 is preoccupation with failure, which means we anticipate risk and every staff member is a problem solver. We have a laser sharp focus on catching errors before they happen and predicting and eliminating risk before they cause harm. Number 3, reluctance to simplify, which simply means that we want to get to the root causes of a problem rather than settling for simple explanations. Number 4, commitment to resilience, which means we bounce back from mistakes. We get back on track and we prevent those mistakes from happening again. Lastly, the 5th one is deference to expertise, which means we empower and value expertise and diversity of perspectives and insights. We rely on those with the most knowledge of the situation at hand, regardless of rank, hierarchy, position, or other factors. Each one of these 5 HRO principles has its place in our safety storytelling, which is why it's essential to use these principles to help ground these concepts. And now we're going to discuss how we can use the team experience or enhance the team experience through staff recognition. Pictured here is a snapshot of a team building conversation series that was brought to our CLC leadership team from our executive HRO leader coaches. This series was very well received as it spoke to several topics for team building. Topics included being emotionally intelligent about HRO, high conflict, change readiness, resistance, and resilience, maximizing the team building utility of AES, and lastly, a discussion for a team building toolkit. Each of these topics shares a separate story regarding how to improve relationships and enhancing the team's experience, which we all know is a very important topic. Here listed on this slide is a visual summary of the discussions that I shared on the previous slide, which were to enhance our CLC team experience. We use storytelling as a part of learning about all of these different areas that are pictured here. Lastly, a great way to enhance team experience and support safety stories is through staff recognition for reporting of near misses, also known as close calls or great catches. Great catches are events or situations that could have resulted in an adverse event, but fortunately it did not, either by chance or through intervention. Reporting great catches is especially critical as there are more great catches than actual events. Thus, there is more to learn from if they are reported. The more great catches are reported, the more processes can be fixed or improved to prevent what may otherwise lead to an adverse event, which ties us back to the HRO principle of preoccupation with failure. At our facility, you can nominate yourself or a colleague for a Great Catch Recognition Award. At this point, you should better understand how to, number one, incorporate a safety story toolkit within your respective facility. Number two, identify how to thread HRO principles into shared safety stories. Number three, demonstrate how to incorporate HRO principles into staff's daily work. And lastly, number four, explain the importance of enhancing team experience through staff recognition. This concludes the presentation for utilizing safety stories to enhance the high reliability organization journey. It has been my honor to bring this information to you. Thank you for your time and your attention. Stay well and stay safe. And don't forget to share your story. If you have registered to receive continuing education credit for this activity, please visit the link displayed to complete the post-course evaluation. Thank you very much.